So it's all to play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Hello, Aston Villa fans, and welcome to For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast, where Aston Villa won, Brighton 0. Aston Villa break their losing streak at home in a gutsy, kind of sluggish slogfest type of game against Brighton. Certainly one for the purists at times. Lots of misplaced passes, but I think it was the great man who's just after joining the podcast now that was the first person I ever heard say this phrase, but couldn't give a shiny shite about any of those, because Aston Villa come away with 3 points in a difficult game, in a game we made difficult at times, and Villa win, and we roll on towards the next games against Leeds. Paddy, not one for the scrapbook anyway. I don't think that one, albeit scoring late goals ain't half bad.
No, I was going to say it won't be one that we'll remember, but I have a funny feeling we'll look back at the end of the season and we'll realise how important this victory was. It's important to win games that you probably had no right to win, because we let's be honest, we didn't turn up. We lacked the leadership. We lacked the ability to get in the referee's face, despite the fact that they were kicking shit out of us in the first half, and we did absolutely nothing about it. Whereas every single challenge, they had big boys in the referee's face roaring and shouting. So we need to get some leadership back on the pitch. We need to be more dominant. We need to play better. But as you correctly said, I couldn't give a shiny shite how those 3 points came tonight. They came. And that's the most important thing. We've a 5-point buffer again. A very winnable game against Leeds coming up. And look, this is going to be a very short podcast for me because I'm feeling under the weather, and I'll drop off in about 10 minutes. But I'll give you as much as I can in that 10 minutes, and I'll invite answers on a postcard to tell me why in the lead up to the goal we didn't get a penalty.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
If you're telling me that the two Chelsea penalties in the last 2 games are penalties, and that's not, how on God's green earth do the people in PGMOL and the Premier League wonder why people mention the word corruption? It is absolutely farcical that you can put 2 hands on a player, knock him over as he's trying to kick the ball. That's a fucking penalty all day, every day, and 11 times on a Sunday. But a win is a win. We got it. We beat them again. Thank fuck, because they sent out another absolute clown today, so much so that he added on nearly a minute and a half on the 5 minutes because we scored. So I'm at a loss to what we're dealing with here with PGMOL. It's a joke at this stage. So we got the win. We got it against all odds, and I'm despite my demeanor, I'm very, very happy. I'm just feeling very, very under the weather at the moment.
Things are potentially going well for us. This win you mentioned there, Paddy. Sorry, my mind had thought about 3 sentences further. My mouth had said the 3 sentences further than where my mind actually was at the moment. Like, if Liverpool are still in awe with Sunderland, and you mentioned that this isn't one we remember, but it's one we might look back on, and I think it absolutely may be, because look. Sunderland have just gone. Oh no, Liverpool have just gone 1-0 up, or is it? What's going on here? Yeah, Liverpool have gone 1-0 up at Sunderland. Anyway, that's beside the point. We're still we've gained ground on Manchester United. Now it's gone back up to 5 points. We're gone back to 6 points on Chelsea again, which is absolutely great. And there are things that you have to come away from this weekend and go, that's fantastic. Keeping those buffer zones. As I said, I've been saying it since October, November. Well, since the winning streak started. It's keeping buffer zones between the teams below us is is what we need to do. And winning a game like that is good. Yes, we got the FA Cup at the weekend. I think, to be honest with you, it's a needed break from the league for us currently,
Yeah.
having this FA Cup game. Again, unpopular opinion, and while I think it's fair to say everybody wants to win a cup, I absolutely want to win a cup. I don't want to win that cup at the risk of not getting Champions League in the league. And we can go out and we can have a crack off that, but who do we rest? I don't want us to lose players to injury in that game like we did against Spurs. And then, as you say, we've got Leeds, and with the passing of those 10 to 12 days, we're 10 to 12 days closer to our 3 midfield coming back again. So this win is a win. We've got a break this week whereby we can't get any further ahead or behind in the league than we are currently. And then we've got Leeds as well at home, where that's not a gimme at all. Leeds are playing some really resolute stuff. They're in 15th place in the league at the moment. They're playing some really resolute stuff. We've got them at home. Win there again leaves us 11 games left to play in the league. And if it keeps going the way it is, we'll have 11 games to play. We'll be 8 points ahead of 6th place, and it really is in our hands then from there on in. Now, it could come down to the fact that we play Liverpool, and I was hoping it wouldn't come down to that game, Paddy. But obviously Liverpool being in 6th place is just we just need to finish above Liverpool or finish above whoever finishes in 6th place. That's really where it is for me. And a win tonight, as you say, Paddy, could be extremely consequential when we come to the end of the season. It's fair to say that, look, you mentioned we didn't really show up. I still thought we were the better team tonight. I don't think Brighton showed up either. But I thought there were some lackluster performances out there. Like Ollie Watkins was poor tonight. I thought Douglas Luiz was great at getting on the ball, but the second he got on the ball, it was like as if he was wearing 2 buckets on his feet at times. Passing was wide and wild at times. I thought Onana as well. I'm not sure Luiz and Onana work very well together in there, but I thought when Ross Barkley came on, it completely changed the dynamic of how our midfield looked. What did you think, Paddy? I'm just concentrating on midfield itself there at the moment, but it looked, we were able to win the ball back, and then when we won it back, it was kind of aimless then after that.
Yeah, well, I think a lot goes down to how they set up as well. The minute they lost the ball, they were hard working to get back into the positions, and made it very difficult for us to pass through the lines. There was very, very few defense splitting passes. There was a lot of long balls from Emi Martinez. I think it's very, very difficult to play against a team that are set up for battle, and they set up well for battle. And they were just trying to grind out any type of result because they're in a rut. They're fighting for their lives. And I think we got incredibly lucky in the end. I looked very hard at Alisson when he came on. And dare I say it, I think we've got a grown-up footballer in there. He had a number of opportunities to where he could have went and busted his hole to close down a player. But we were 1-0 up, and he just stood off and left them at it. He was ultra controlled, which I didn't expect from him. So I'm hoping we see a little bit of magic from him. I'm hoping we see him play at the weekend. And like you said, I'm not too bothered about the FA Cup because it can't be at the detriment of getting Champions League football. That has to be our focus now. Get ourselves over the line as early as possible with that, and hopefully we can concentrate on the UEFA Cup then after, because I really couldn't care less. If you tell me we're going to be in that, I'd snap your hand. And did you lose me? Not sure if you lost me there. Not sure if we've lost Neil either. Can everyone hear me? I can't hear you.
Something muted my mic.
Now I can hear you.
It wasn't me. It wasn't me. Something muted my mic, and it wasn't me. There is gremlins in my system. I'm convinced. Poltergeist in my room.
I'm going to have to leave you now. I'm really not feeling great, but in the words of my late father, it's a good sign that a team can play badly and get a win, and that is always a plus. And look, I'll take wins like that until the end of the season if it means we're back in Champions League football.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely,
we
100%.
got to be patient. The goals will come. Great to. I think I tweeted at halftime 2.5 games at home in the Premier League without a goal. That's not like us at all. So absolutely delighted to get back on winning ways, and roll on. What more can I say?
Exactly. Go on away and mind yourself, Paddy, there, and get some rest for yourself. Looks like a bad injury in that Liverpool game. There's a stretcher out here, and there's about 10 fucking St. John's ambulance people there, and a big canister of oxygen. So hopefully whoever's down is okay. Go on, Paddy, mind yourself, and
leave it to it.
I will catch you during the
Up the Villa.
Up the Villa is right. Yeah. So look, I as Paddy kind of summed it up there for me, winning 1-0 in a game like that is like a 0-0 draw was what that game had written all over it, and it had it written all over it after. I think really after maybe about 25 minutes, it was settling into being sluggish and sloppy at times. Both teams were, they were really only hoping that they could get Kyron Matoma mismatched up with Bogart. It didn't happen that often. Gomez on the other side was pushed back an awful lot into kind of a defensive remit at times. They did release him once or twice, but their midfield wasn't up to much. Welbeck was ornamental at times. But and the reason I'm bringing that up is because we didn't exploit the fact that that's really all they were trying to do, and that Welbeck was a non-entity. And I think there was a small bit of it was a small bit too much of keep it tight out there, and it wasn't working because our play style wasn't tight. Like Lamar Bogart and Ian Matson, I think you were kind of caught between a rock and a hard place there, because he wanted, with Jadon Sancho there as well, he kind of wanted both full backs to be helping out, Buendia and Sancho. But Bogart isn't really going to do that. And we missed that with Matty Cash, whereby Matty Cash is able to whip in a ball, whip in a cross, and he's done it to great effect this year. Lamar Bogart, that isn't his game. That won't ever be his game, and that's what you're going to miss as a right back. With him, I thought he played well, in defence, absolutely, and I'm not harping on against him, but I think it's something that may have stymied us a small little bit, because we just didn't have that ability to be able to be able to, I suppose, get people up in attack towards that on that right hand side. Douglas Luiz was getting up over there as well at times, but again, it's not really Douglas Luiz's game to be out that far out wide. You do want him crashing the box. You want him being in and around the penalty area, in and around the D, to play little dinky passes and stuff like that. That's what he did so well for Aston Villa, not really being out there. And then, Bailey comes on as well. There was a couple of times Bailey lost the ball, but I thought, look, anything would be an improvement on the Bournemouth game. And I thought he was a bit of an improvement. And what Paddy said there about Alisson too, I think there's one or two little things about Alisson. Excuse me. There's one or two things with Alisson is he didn't look unfazed. I think there was one very kind of telling part for me as well. Douglas Luiz, the ball was going towards the sideline, and Douglas Luiz tried to keep it in, and he ended up knocking it out and almost keeping it in. And Alisson went over to him. It was almost kind of like, I know obviously, look, he speaks Portuguese, and Alisson speaks Portuguese, but it was almost like a little brother saying to a big brother, well done, good stuff. You nearly kept it in. And I thought that was nice because Alisson's he's a young man, but he's got his head and his shoulders. I likened him to James Milner, because doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, doesn't do anything out of the way, just lives for the game of football, and is an athlete at such a young age. And what Paddy said there, I think I would have to agree with. He was tactical with regards to when he pressed and when he didn't press. He filtered in. He came kind of a bit narrow when he needed to. He went backwards towards Matson. And think about it as well. He's playing on that left-hand side. He played most of his time for Grêmio on the right-hand side and through the centre. So playing on that left-hand side is not exactly it's not new or it's not a natural place for him to play. So fair play to him. And look, we're only looking at him for 15 minutes or less. But look, great to see him on the pitch. Great to see that 10 million put to use at least, and we're going to see it on the field this season. And long may he continue to progress and stay up to speed with the tactical elements that Unai Emery wants to bring to this. Apologies, I'm actually struggling too. I'm actually I'm battling through a half collapsed lung for the last before Christmas, start of December. So that was half the reason why I didn't come on for the post match after Bournemouth. I was just feeling absolutely shite. So apologies everybody for all the coughing and everything there. And that's why I look so washed out and tired for probably the last 3 months on camera. But what was I going to say there as well? Yes, the penalty. The penalty for me was absolutely hilarious because there was so much said about the Cole Palmer or the penalty that Chelsea got last night, and the penalty Villa didn't get then for the push on was it Morgan Rogers at the weekend. And then we have something, albeit it was a push to the front of the player this time, to Tammy Abraham this time. It's Real says stop vaping. I don't vape or anything like that. I might be brewing as why did it collapse? I had apparently I'd undiagnosed pneumonia at one stage, and I do have respiratory issues anyway, so that's another side of the thing. But we won't go into my medical history here and now. But yeah, Tammy Abraham gets pushed in the front. Should have got a penalty. I think that like VAR look at that and then they go, no, there isn't enough in that to give it. Completely knocks him off balance. If they give it last night, they should be giving it tonight. And you know, it's as I say, it's the inconsistent application of the rules is such a big issue in English football at the moment, and everybody's screaming about it. We've done bits and pieces like this. Like Brian Broby's just gone down the penalty area here now. To me, it's 6 and 1, half a dozen of the other here, but you've seen these given as penalties, and I think VAR are looking at it now. But anyway, I'll keep you guys updated on that one. In the Man City game tonight as well, Kenny Tete grabbed Anton Semenyo by the hair and pulled him back in the box, and there was no penalty given for it. We saw players got sent off for that in England and in Scotland, I think, over the course of the last 2 weeks as well. So it's the inconsistent application of the rules, I think, is a big issue. And look, I don't need to tell everybody that's not new news to anyone, but it is something that the Premier League is struggling with, and I think all the game of football in general is struggling with it. Even when teams go to play in Europe, there's a different rule book. It's less physical and so on, and it's obviously to do with interpretation of the rules and stuff like that, and that's the way it's always going to be. But I think within the Premier League itself, the application of the rules should be a bit more stringent and a bit more a bit more like when precedent has been set, precedent should be kept, I think, really. And every single fan base, every single podcast throughout the course of the Premier League is like that, and they'll all be talking about the fact that every one of them feel like they're all harshly treated, and there has to be a reason for that, and it's simply because of the inconsistency of the application of the rules, and that's absolutely, it's clear as day for anybody who watches the Premier League as a sporting entity. But getting back, I suppose, to the game itself, that I look, it is a lucky one in a way that, getting an 86-minute winner is something that we don't, well, I won't say that we don't normally get, because we've gotten a few in them this year, and we've gotten a few in years gone by, but we didn't look like we were going to score today. And next thing then we get that set piece for just after the penalty, and then Tyrone Mings heads it in. It was a real lift. You could see that it was a lift for the players to get that win at home, because after the great winning run that we had and the 2-game winning loss, then it was a case of we went from, there was a bit of trepidation in playing at home, and you could see that at times tonight. So hopefully this will spur us on in the next 2 games playing at home as well to get positive results. But the main thing as well is no injuries out of tonight. We missed Matty Cash tonight, and we're 1 week closer to the 3 midfield lads coming back and giving us some real grit and options in that midfield area, which, as we know, is the engine room of our team and will propel us on to, hopefully, to the Champions League and beyond. So that's going to do it for us tonight, everybody. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch and to listen, as always, and for your comments and so on. We'll be back we'll be back, take a bit of a break, I think, because we don't really have much football unless there's any news or anything like that comes out. And we'll be back with a preview for the FA Cup for Newcastle later on in the week. And then Newcastle at the weekend, and then onwards towards Leeds. So hopefully you will join us for that. So yeah, stay safe, everyone. Stay healthy, and all that's left to say is up the Villa, and we win 1-0. See you all soon.